Your keyword strategy is the foundation of your Google Ads success, and yet most e-commerce business owners do it wrong. The reason I see most e-commerce business owners fail when it comes to Google Ads is that they either don't conduct any research at all, or they just target the bottom of the funnel traffic, simply forgetting and ignoring everyone else. But the best Google Ads strategies don't just target people at the bottom of the funnel. They target shoppers at every stage of the journey: the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. In this video, I will walk you through keyword research the right way, step by step, whether you want to target people who are ready to purchase or you want to build long-term brand awareness. I'll show you how to pick the best keywords to get the most out of your budget. So let's get into it. So what is keyword research? Well, it's the process of finding search terms that your target audience are using on Google. By conducting keyword research, we can ensure that our campaigns have the greatest chance of success, because we can determine what our target audience is searching for and therefore create ads that are relevant to the searches that they're inputting into Google. If we think about how Google works, it's a search engine. So when our ideal customer or our target audience is on Google, they may be searching for certain things. Let's say, for example, they're looking for best running shoes for beginners, or perhaps cheap running shoes. We know that the core intent of that is that these people want to start running, or perhaps they're already running, and therefore they're looking to purchase running trainers, and they either want the best ones or the cheapest ones. So already we can tell a lot about this customer based on what they're searching. And the best part is Google gives us all of this information for free, without us having to actually spend any money to acquire the data. The reason why this is so important is it's going to allow you to determine which search terms that you actually want to target and bid on. And this is honestly where I see many e-commerce business owners fail. They'll launch a campaign without conducting any keyword research and then wonder why the campaign isn't successful. But it's not something that should be overlooked. Keyword research is extremely important, and there's so much data available that we can leverage to our advantage that can make our campaigns so much more successful. And this really isn't something that should be neglected. Keyword research is important because it allows us to target the right keywords and ensure that you, as a business owner, are showing your ads to people who are interested in purchasing as opposed to just browsing. Not only that, but it also reduces wasted ad spend and improves your conversion rate. And lastly, without it, you risk targeting low intent searches that simply won't convert. So how do we determine where our customer is inside of what we call the sales funnel? The sales funnel is something that we use to simply categorize where someone is on their customer journey. So as someone works their way down the funnel, they begin to get warmer, and the warmer they get, the closer they are to converting. So we need to take this into consideration when building our campaigns. What is the primary goal? Usually, as an e-commerce brand, your primary goal is to get purchases. And the best way to do that while generating the greatest return on investment is by simply target those who are at the bottom of the funnel and show the greatest purchase intent. For example, someone who's perhaps searching Nike running shoes or buy Nike running shoes, or perhaps even the particular product name, for example, Nike Jordans. Because that person has come to Google and searched for something that includes the product type or even the product title, they are showing the greatest level of purchase intent. Now, the problem with bottom of funnel traffic is there's only so much of it, and usually it's where you'll find the highest level of competition. Because these people have the greatest purchase intent, it's not only you that's bidding on that traffic, you're also going to be bidding against your competitors. And remember how Google works, right? It's an auction, which means if there's a high level of competition, then your cost per click is going to be inflated. Now, as long as you're able to generate conversions profitably, then I guess it doesn't matter too much. But as I mentioned at the start, there's only so much search demand for people who are actively looking for products and have high purchase intent. After you reach the total addressable market and that search demand is exhausted, you're going to need to work your way back up the funnel if you want to continue growing. To do that, you need to start working your way back up the funnel and maybe start nurturing people who don't quite have the highest level of purchase intent, but are still showing some level of intent. For example, you could target those on the middle of the funnel who are potentially doing comparison searches. So that could be someone searching for best running shoes for beginners. They still have purchase intent in that they're looking for running shoes. And based on this search, you've been able to identify that they're a beginner. They simply just don't know which type of running shoe to purchase yet. But we can assume based on that search that they are still highly likely to convert. Therefore, we shouldn't be ignoring this traffic, and this is where I see a lot of e-commerce business owners go wrong. You just need to take one step back up the funnel, and you've opened yourself up into a blue ocean of search terms that not many people are targeting, which means not only are you going to have less competition, but also a lower cost per click. And it gives you the ability to then nurture these customers and encourage them or guide them through down to the bottom of the funnel, where they're then going to be presented with your products. Even though we've taken one step back up the funnel and we're targeting those that are in the middle, you will eventually again reach total addressable market, and you want to take one step further up and start targeting those at the top of the funnel. Now, using the example of running, they may even be people that don't even know that they need running shoes yet. They could be complete beginners and they simply want to know how to start running. Now, I do want to be clear on one thing. I'm not saying that as an e-commerce business owner, you need to be targeting customers at every stage of the funnel to be successful. The point I'm trying to make is most e-commerce business owners aren't even taking these things into consideration or conducting proper keyword research to then start segmenting people with individual campaign types based on where they are in the funnel. And it's extremely important that you begin to segment. Segmentation is key, and it's ultimately going to allow you to scale each segment of the funnel. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 different tools and resources that you can use to conduct proper keyword research. But before we get onto that, it's extremely important that you as a business owner understand your numbers. And there's a few different metrics that you're going to need to know. And that is your cost per click and your conversion rate. If you have these 2 numbers or these 2 metrics, you can then work backwards and calculate your cost per acquisition, which is essentially your cost per purchase. As I mentioned a moment ago, with these 2 metrics, you can then calculate your cost per acquisition or your cost per purchase. So let's just run through an example here and I'll explain to you why this is important. So let's say you're targeting 2 different keywords and your cost per click for both of these keywords is $1. And after targeting these keywords for a while, you start to notice that one of them has a 2% conversion rate and yet the other only has a 1% conversion rate. And when you run the numbers, you look at your cost per click, which is $1, and you divide it by your conversion rate. You can then calculate your cost per acquisition. So let's look at these 2 examples. As I mentioned, your CPC is the same on both, but the conversion rate is different. So if we were to do 1 divided by 1, we get a cost per acquisition of $100. Yet if we were to do 1 divided by a conversion rate of 2, we get $50 cost per acquisition. Now, as you can see, that simple change in conversion rate is quite a big difference. So just because you're generating conversions, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily profitable, which is why it's extremely important to also understand your cost of goods sold, your break-even return on ad spend, and ultimately your profitability. Now, I know all of this might sound a little bit confusing, and I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole in this particular video because I have covered it in detail inside of my free Google Ads community. It's completely free to join. Simply click the link in the video description. In the video as well, not only do I break down how to calculate all of these metrics, but I also give away a resource for free that looks something like this. This is a Google Sheet complete with formulas that will calculate all of these metrics for you. You simply put in your cost of goods sold and your shipping, as well as your retail price, and it will calculate your break-even ROAS, your gross margin, and your gross profit. As a business owner, it's extremely important that you understand these metrics at a product level. But if you don't, I'd highly recommend that you join my free Google Ads community, download the resource, and start calculating your profit at a product level. So now that we've gone through what keyword research is, why it's important, the different levels of the sales funnel, and also understanding your numbers, I'm going to get onto the 3 different tools and resources that I would recommend using to conduct keyword research. And not only that, I'm going to give you a live walkthrough of exactly how to do it. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, I would always recommend, where possible, that you leverage your existing data. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you've been running Google Ads already, you should have access to data and you can leverage that data to your advantage. And I'll show you how in just a moment. The benefit of this is that you can use real data from inside of your own advertising account that is relevant to your products and your target audience. The only downside is you're going to be limited to past data. You're not necessarily going to be able to project or capture new trends. But don't worry, there's a tool that I'm going to show you how to use to be able to project trends moving forwards. Next up is Google Keyword Planner. And this is a great tool that's provided for free, provided that you have a Google advertising account. Now, the great thing about this is you can input a particular search term or search keyword, and Google's actually going to tell you how many people are searching for this exact keyword on a monthly basis, as well as what you could expect to pay as a cost per click and what the level of competition is. Now, the fact that it tells you what you can expect to pay as a cost per click is extremely important, because if you know what your average conversion rate is on your website or from your Google advertising campaigns, then you can work backwards using the calculation that I've just showed you and divide your cost per click by your conversion rate to determine your average or expected cost per acquisition. The only thing to take into consideration with Google Keyword Planner is you need to take the figures with a pinch of salt. They're not always extremely accurate, but should more just be used as an indication of what you could expect. And last but not least is a tool called Google Trends. Again, another free resource provided by Google that allows you to identify seasonal trends and demand spikes. The only downside of Google Trends is it doesn't give you detailed keyword metrics, but not to worry, that's what we're going to leverage Google Keyword Planner for. So up first is leveraging existing data. I'm going to export some data from inside one of my Google advertising accounts and show you how to export it to Sheets, add some filters and start analyzing how your keywords are performing and decide which ones to double down on and which ones to potentially exclude. So now we're inside one of my Google advertising accounts. So in here, I'm running a few different types of campaigns. We've got performance max campaigns and search campaigns. And in this particular example, I'm going to export some search term data from one of my search text campaigns, and we can start to analyze those search terms together. So I'm inside the campaign here, as you can see. I've got the time frame looking at the past couple of months because this campaign didn't launch until early December, and I'm simply going to download this data. I click download and export to Sheets, and then click download. So when you open your search term report, it's going to look something like this. It's going to tell you the time frame of the exported data, and you're going to have some different headers here, which you can then use to analyze the campaigns. So what I like to do is select row number 3, go to data, create filter. And then what this is going to allow us to do is start filtering all of our data. Now, there's many different ways how you might decide to filter, review, and optimize this data. Let's say, for example, you wanted to see where the majority of your advertising spend is going. You could either filter by cost or by clicks. And to do that, you'd simply click the drop down, sort Z to A, which will be highest to lowest. And you can see which particular search terms have spent the most or generated the most clicks. And usually that coincides with spend as well. If you really wanted to, you could filter by spend first, just in case there's any discrepancies. So now we can see where the majority of spend is going, and we can also see what that's generated in terms of a conversion value. This column here is conversion value per cost, which is basically your return on ad spend, what the conversion rate is, how many conversions it's generated, and what the cost per conversion is. Not only that, but we can also see things like your average CPC, your click-through rate, your clicks, and impressions. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you download this sheet from Google, the headers that you will see will be dependent on the ones that you have set up inside of your Google Ad account. So if you're not seeing these metrics here, it just simply means you haven't got them set up in the columns. So you'd simply go modify columns, and you can add them all in by simply searching for them or just going through individually. Now, this campaign hasn't been running for too long. You can see in total there's been 1,400 clicks, and the highest spending search term has only had 30 clicks. So we don't really have tons of data here to be able to optimize around. But let's just run through a particular scenario, okay? We can see on average in the account, our cost per conversion is $57. So we might decide to identify anywhere that there's been spend over $60 and start to identify whether or not this is a keyword or search term that we want to target. So if our average is 57, we can see this here. This particular search term has spent $90 and hasn't yet generated a conversion. Now, I'm not necessarily going to exclude this because I still believe that the search term is relevant and it's not had that many clicks, only 18. If over time this continues to underperform and doesn't ultimately generate me any conversions, then I would look to exclude that particular search term. And what that's going to allow is for more spend to be pushed towards those that are converting, ultimately improving my campaign performance. Now, a lot of the search terms in here are a combination of bottom of funnel and middle of funnel because they're driving traffic to a listicle, which is a product comparison. So like our example earlier, they're people that are potentially looking for the best running shoes for beginners. Now, on reflection, this probably isn't the best data pool to use just because there's not tons of data within it. But the point I want to get across is this is something that you should be doing regularly. Plus, you never know what you might uncover inside of your search term reports. It could provide insights as to other keywords that you could begin to target either within your existing campaign, within a new ad group, or within an entirely new campaign. For example, let's say I started to see some top of funnel searches in here, referring back to our original example of how to start running, then I'd want to identify which search keyword is bringing in those search terms, and then maybe begin to segment that in its own campaign and push people further up the funnel. Remember what I said earlier about segmentation being key. It will pay you well to analyze your search terms regularly and also identify which search keywords that you're targeting are bringing in those particular search terms. Now, obviously, what we've just been through there is only going to be applicable if you're already advertising on Google. And I appreciate that not everyone is. So let's go through how to conduct keyword research. And I'll do that using Google Keyword Planner. So first and foremost, you're going to want to come into your Google advertising account and you'll simply type Google Keyword Planner. And we'll simply click Discover New Keywords. And what you can do is either start by using a specific website. So you could just put in the URL and click Get Results. And it's going to try and find keywords for you that it believes to be relevant to your website and landing pages. Or if you already have some keywords in mind that you believe are relevant and you want to start targeting potentially, then you can type up to 10 of them in here at any one time. So I'm going to go ahead and type in some keywords that are relevant to my business. And I'm going to change the language to English, and then I'm going to click Get Results. So now what we can see is the data here for the 3 keywords that I provided. Obviously, like I say, you can put up to 10. In this instance, I did 3. And Google's showing me, on average, how many monthly searches each of these keywords get, what the level of competition is, and also what we can expect to pay as a top of page bid in the low range and the high range. Again, as I mentioned before, take these figures with a pinch of salt and use it more as a guideline as opposed to being factual. Now, not only that, but Google's also provided us with some additional keywords that it believes to be relevant to the 3 that I provided. So what I like to do is download the keyword data and export it into a Google Sheet and simply click download. So we're going to go through a similar process to what we did for the search terms. And to do that, I'm going to select row number 3, I'm going to select data and create a filter. So you'll notice that some of these keywords are already highlighted green. And that's because I actually used this sheet recently to conduct keyword research to build a new campaign. So believe me guys, when I say these things I'm teaching you are things that I actively do myself, either at my agency, for my students, or for my own e-commerce businesses. So what I was interested in when exporting this data was mostly the monthly search demand. I wanted to find relevant keywords that I could segment into keyword themes using ad groups and begin to target. So the 3 segments that I wanted to target were search terms that include the word portable, rechargeable, and travel, because they're relevant to the product that I was advertising. So what I was doing was I came in and I deselected all of the values under keyword, and I just wanted to see values that included the term portable. So now I've typed in portable, you can see it says select all 53. So I'm going to select all 53 and press OK. Now what it's showing me is all of the keywords that include the term portable, and I wanted to go through and identify those that have decent search volume. Now what would I consider to be decent search volume? Ideally, it would be searches that include over 1,000 monthly searches, because some of these that are just simply too low, 70, 110, 210, because there's not much search demand, it's very unlikely that if you were to target these keywords, that the campaign would actually spend. 300 is probably just about okay. And to be honest, on reflection, not sure why I highlighted this one. But what this allowed me to do is pick 5 to 10 keywords that I wanted to target for that particular ad group within the campaign. And it allowed me to identify the search volume, the level of competition, and what I could expect to pay in terms of a CPC. I then highlighted these particular keywords and added them to my ad group within my campaign, and then launched the campaign. Now there's one more tool that I want to share with you, and that is Google Trends. And the reason Google Trends is great is it's going to allow us to analyze previous data and potentially make projections moving forward. So I'll show you how to do that now. Google Trends is great, and you can access it even if you don't have a Google Ad account. So you simply type in Google Trends, click Google Trends. Obviously just adjust your location up here. Mine is set to United Arab Emirates, but let's put United States. And let's search for something on theme. So let's go for running trainers. Now what we can do is adjust the time frame. So let's go 2004 to present. You can adjust the category, although I've never actually done that myself, to be honest. Google is going to rate out of 100 how much interest there is over time. And Google's going to give us a breakdown month on month of how much interest there is over time. 100 being the greatest level of interest and 0 being the lowest. So if you hover over any part on the chart, it will show you the rating by month. And you can see over time, performance is showing a slight uptrend. You can see over here, we're averaging around sort of 40 to 60. Yet back here, it was sort of 20 to 40. Okay, so we've gone from 20 to 40 to 40 to 60. And there were some peaks as well. So you got a peak here, and a peak here. One thing to keep in mind with Google Trends is it's going to show you data for that exact search term that you've typed in, okay? So for example, if I was to remove this and just type trainers, it's going to show completely different data. So be very careful what you're searching for, because Google's going to give you exact data for that search term. Now let's take a look at something that's maybe a little bit more seasonal. Let's put garden shed. And let's look on a slightly smaller time frame, just so it's easier to digest. So this is something that's perhaps a little bit more seasonal. And the reason I wanted to show you something that is a little bit more seasonal is because you can then use this data moving forward to project when your peaks are going to be and when your lows are going to be. So if you're making projections of the year ahead, you can then determine when your best months are going to be, when your worst months are going to be, and how you might want to budget your advertising spend. So you can see here in the US for garden sheds, there's an uptrend that begins in February, peaks in April, and then begins trending down in sort of June, July. And obviously it's at its low in the winter months when I guess people are inside due to the colder weather and spending less time in their garden. So we've now been through 3 different tools and resources. 1, leveraging existing data. 2, Google Keyword Planner. And 3, Google Trends. And these are 3 resources that you can use completely free of charge and that are available anytime at your disposal. Now, the thing is, most e-commerce business owners are not leveraging these tools. They're simply setting campaigns live, deciding what keywords they want to target based on what ones they think are going to work, and then wondering why their campaigns are maybe not profitable or not scaling the way that they hoped. Remember, keyword research is extremely important, and how you decide to then segment those keywords into different categories based on where you're targeting customers in the funnel is also very important as well. Where possible, we want to segment your high purchase intent keywords in one particular campaign where the primary goal is purchases, and then segment our keywords into the different stages of the funnel, whether it be the middle of the funnel or the top of the funnel. Ultimately, you want to segment this data because you can expect different cost per clicks, different conversion rates, and ultimately different cost per acquisitions. And these goals primarily have different functions. Even if you're an e-commerce business where your primary goal is conversions, remember, like I mentioned earlier, if you're only targeting that high purchase intent, bottom of funnel traffic, you're going to reach total addressable market sooner or later. So if you do want to continue growing on Google, you need to work your way back up that funnel. So now you understand the importance of keyword research and at least 3 tools and resources that you can use to your advantage. It's important that you begin to identify keywords, begin to segment them based on the goal of the campaign, and then ultimately build the campaigns in a way in which they're going to convert. So now you've identified what keywords you want to target and where in your funnel that they fit. The next step is to actually build the campaigns. Now, unfortunately, it isn't as simple as just setting a campaign live. You need to understand how to segment your keywords into different campaigns. At a campaign level, how to segment your keywords into different ad groups, which keyword match types you should be targeting, because there's 3, broad match, phrase match, and exact match, and each of them function in very different ways. You also need to understand which bidding strategy to use. Again, there's manual ones, there's automated ones, and ones with different targets, whether you're using manual CPC, maximize clicks, max conversions, max conversion value. They all operate in a different way, and they're all going to get you a different result. Now, if this all sounds a little bit much, don't worry, because in my next video, I'm going to break down how to best structure your campaigns depending on your goal and how to maximize your return on investment. So make sure you go away and do your keyword research, identify the search terms that you want to target, and then by the time the next video comes around, you'll be ready to build your campaign. Just make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and you turn on notifications so that you don't miss it. Now, as I just mentioned, keyword research is the foundation of building a successful campaign. But past that point, and just as important, is the execution of the strategy. If you're looking for a proven step-by-step system to generate consistent, profitable campaigns for your e-commerce business, then consider applying for my one-to-one mentorship program. I'll personally help you grow your e-commerce business using Google Ads. To learn more, simply click the link in the video description. That's all for now. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.